So, have you ever felt that there was a long list of things that you needed to heal or fix about yourself before you could finally feel happy and healthy and fulfilled, and just so you could finally feel good about yourself? And so I have a very literal example to illustrate this point. So, the other day, my friend had a healing session, and the person conducting the session gave her a list. And there were 13 items on this list, 13 things that were supposedly causing her all her issues. And I could recognize myself in a lot of the items on this list. Things like people pleasing tendencies, saying yes when you really mean no, basically kind of allowing people to walk all over you. But both of us recognized that this could be a bit of a slippery slope. Because the thing is that in this human experience, what makes it so interesting is that it's so dynamic, that nothing is static. And so one moment we may feel like we're on top of the world, and then the next moment we may feel like a piece of chewed up dog food and then just completely worthless. And when we feel really low, that's when we tend to engage in those people pleasing tendencies. And so if we're delaying our fulfillment, if we're delaying our happiness until we've nailed all the items on the list, well, we're always going to be swinging on the pendulum of highs and lows. And one moment we feel like we've mastered it, and then the next moment we feel like, oh no, I slipped up again. I said yes again when I really meant to say no, and oh no, there I go again, and back into my old ways. So, and then let's say you do nail all the items on the list, but then usually what happens is that there's typically more items that tend to come up when we're looking at it from this vantage point. So it's just like digging around for limiting beliefs. And once you go digging, there's always going to be more things to dig up. Because the thing is that we're looking at it from our limited human vantage point, which is by definition limited, right? It's not infinite. We can't from our finite human minds, we can't perceive infinity. We can only see a window, little glimpses into it, but we can't perceive all of infinity at once. And so therefore, we're always going to be seeing these limitations. We're always going to be finding more limitations to dig up. And so my friend and I came to the same realization that why not just go straight to the source? Why not just go straight to that divine, loving presence that doesn't see lack, that only sees perfection, that only sees wholeness? And when you're basking in that loving presence, then suddenly that notion of problems and things that need to be fixed, suddenly it becomes much less relevant. And this is not about bypassing. This is not about suppressing or ignoring or pretending things don't exist. Rather, it's about loving all of you, even those parts of yourself that you perceive as being insecure or lacking in confidence or people pleasing, loving that as well. Because none of it makes up the totality of who you are, which is an infinite being having a human experience. And so there are many different ways to bask in this divine love. And one way is just to rest in awareness. And any things that are swirling through your mind, even this idea of yourself as, just to take the example of being a people pleaser, and even just looking at that and saying, well, where is this people pleaser? Like, is this something that I can actually locate, or am I aware of this thought of myself as being a people pleaser? And as you start to rest in awareness, you start to see that this is not a fixed identity, and it certainly doesn't represent the totality of who you are. And it's just one story out of infinite stories that you could be telling about yourself. And then you can say to that self, that part of yourself that is feeling lacking, that is feeling maybe unappreciated, that is feeling like you have to prove yourself to others, you can say to that self, that version of yourself, you can say, thank you, I love you, I forgive you, I accept you exactly as you are. And the best way that I can describe this, obviously you will have your own experience, but it's almost like this blanket of love being washed over you and submerging all those parts of yourself that are feeling lonely and lacking, and loving all of it. Because the thing is that divine source, God, whatever you want to call it, doesn't see lack. It only sees wholeness. It only sees perfection. And even just taking a breath, and again, I'm not talking about breath work, I'm just literally talking about taking a breath and asking yourself, what is the presence supplying this breath? And what is the presence that is supplying this oxygen to me? And recognizing that you didn't have to do anything to earn that oxygen. And same thing with walking out in nature. You didn't have to do anything to earn this beautiful world that source has created. It's just there for your enjoyment. And also just doing things for the pure enjoyment of it is another way of giving yourself that divine love and that appreciation that you're seeking. And I think as you do that, you'll naturally find all these other tendencies, the people pleasing, start to slip away. Because at least what I found for myself is that when I was in this kind of, I guess you would call it, this insecure part of myself that constantly felt like I had to please others, and that I was constantly grasping at any little morsel of appreciation. It didn't matter how small. And I felt like I was always sacrificing a great deal and enduring a great deal just to get that little morsel of appreciation, just to get that little breadcrumb. And frankly, just putting up with a lot of BS or a lot of less than ideal behavior. And because the truth is that I didn't appreciate myself. And so therefore my reality was continually reflecting this back to me. But the instant I started giving this love and this appreciation to myself, the less I started to need it from the so-called outside worlds. And the less I found myself engaging in these people-pleasing tendencies, or these tendencies to always say yes to everything, even things I didn't really want to do, and frankly just be a doormat and allow people to walk all over me because I didn't respect myself, I didn't love and appreciate myself. And so all of these tendencies naturally started to slip away as I stepped into this divine love. But it wasn't an experience like a list, like having to go one by one down the items on the list and check off all the items on the list. And so this is all just to say that there is a much easier way to go about doing all of this, and you don't need to be healed, you don't need to be fixed. And even if you feel like that, that's okay, because beneath that feeling is that wholeness and that perfection of who you truly are, that beautiful love that is always there, that's always beneath the surface. And so with that, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.